Well, hello, you join us for this Musical Talk mini on a lovely balmy summer's evening. Technically, this is the third day of summer. We have just appropriately left the open-air theatre at London's Regent's Park. I'm here with Mike Dixon. Hello, Mike.
Hello, Nick. How are you?
Very well, thank you. We've had an absolutely divine evening, haven't we?
We have, actually. Gorgeous sunny start to the evening with Ragtime and sort of the ash cloud coming down. Well, all these little bits of pollen. Lots of people, sadly, in the audience suffering from hay fever.
As you mentioned, we've just been to see Ragtime, the huge epic American musical celebrating all that is America from the turn of last century.
It's kind of a musical that tries to basically tell the story of America in 2.5 hours, isn't it?
Yes. Based on the E.L. Doctorow novel, which years ago I thought was a real Victorian novel because he has that sort of very grand name, but it's actually written in like 1978 or something.
Oh, was it? I didn't know that. 78 it was written. Okay.
It's lovely to have this musical back in London because I'd never seen it before. Now, you said you went to the concert-ish
Well,
production.
I saw it at the Piccadilly, which was a couple of years ago, and that was with a rather large orchestra up at the back of the stage, and a big old, fantastic cast. But it was kind of semi-staged. It wasn't sort of fully staged or fully realised. This, on the other hand,
is the opposite,
where they've reduced the size of the orchestra and hidden them away, which sadly is what they do at Regent's Park. But and they've made the stage very big, and they've made and they've set it against a sort of backdrop of sort of a post 9/11 apocalypse.
We'll talk about more of the concept in a bit, but I want to comment on firstly the issue I had with it was the lack of the orchestra, really, both visually and audibly.
Yeah, yes, music's what I do, and it seems to me that a show that is basically celebrating all that is musically interesting in America, or that started off in America, and is called Ragtime, and it's about that wonderful kick that Ragtime gave to the world, if you like,
and then gospel and blues,
absolutely.
And cakewalk.
And then you can't see the damn orchestra because they're all hidden away, and also, obviously, it costs a lot of money to put a big orchestra somewhere, and so they've made some quite serious, drastic reductions to the size of the band, and mostly it works fine. I missed hearing real strings. I missed
any strings,
or any strings at all. Yeah, but
there were tuning issues as well, I noticed.
Yeah, there were a few bits and bobs, but kind of to be expected, I suppose. If is the band in the open air at the back there, or are they covered up?
I guess
I couldn't see them at all, obviously.
Know. If anyone knows, let us know. But that's
a
shame. But it's still, I think, a very well-written score.
Oh, absolutely. And Chris Walker has done the orchestrations. Chris did the orchestrations for the Piccadilly one as well, and I know Bill Braun did the original Broadway. But Chris
won a Tony Award.
I won a Tony Award, absolutely. But Chris Walker, wonderful Chris Walker, Me and My Girl fame, he did the Piccadilly, bigger band orchestration. He's done this reduction, and essentially it works. Of course it does, and given the financial constraints, of course it has to work. Nigel Lilliam doing it terribly well, I have to say.
And the director's really got his claws into this piece, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean,
it's a really interesting concept. Tell us about the concept, Mike.
Well, it's basically, it's almost like, actually, what it reminded me of was the concept of Godspell back in 1971, where you have people dressed up in everyday clothes, modern everyday clothes, and they take characters and they become the people that they're portraying, and they become lots of different people at various different times. And so, Houdini, the guy who plays Houdini, Stefan, he's wearing a t-shirt with Houdini on it to begin with, but dressed very contemporarily. And then later on, of course, he comes on with a straitjacket on and is hung upside down on this towering crane, which is sort of forms a huge backdrop to the piece. So that's an example. There are lots of other...
And ultimately the piece is about acceptance of race, and we have things like a black woman playing a black man in the show, the Booker T. Washington character.
Yeah, I didn't mind. I like that idea, and also a black man playing the white grandfather.
Yes, it kind of speaks to us as a modern audience that, okay, we are accepting of that, but they wouldn't be in those days.
Well, no, absolutely, of course they wouldn't. I actually rather liked the fact that the grandfather was black.
The big song in Ragtime is called The Wheels of a Dream.
Yeah.
And we actually had the Obama poster on the stage called Dare to Dream.
Dare to Dream.
Symbolically ripped, I think, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, symbolically ripped and used as an entrance for lots of people. The thing about Ragtime for me is simply this. It's a huge arc of a story to tell. And you only get emotionally caught up with it a couple of times within the piece.
And then something changes.
And then and then you're off on something. What it doesn't do is it doesn't make you just don't get engaged by it.
You can't focus on one particular story.
No.
The minute you do, it's over.
Absolutely. I mean, it is, you can analyse it and go, it's brilliant. It's a fantastic piece of musical theatre writing, but ultimately it doesn't leave you satisfied.
Imagine reading the book without the songs.
That's a bit like reading Les Miserables, surely.
Well, you compared it to Les Mis, didn't you?
Well, I did actually, only because, Les Mis comes from a huge, huge book. But it engages because it takes you on an emotional, personal journey. And I think Ragtime, what Ragtime doesn't do is that it doesn't take you on an emotional, personal journey. It is, in fact, almost better as a concert, because I think actually
you can focus more on what's
I think you can because you can actually think about what it's saying. And it's a bit like an oratorio.
Famously, the original Broadway production in 1994 or 7, I think, was absolutely mammoth. And it had real cars on stage, and it had factories, and they built.
How many people in the cast? Do you know how many people in the cast?
40, or an orchestra of about 40 as well. It was at the same time as Titanic, the other big musical. I love the fact we have it here. A couple of complaints about the theatre itself. I just find it's very distracting sitting in the open air theatre. People don't seem to treat it as a serious theatre. I've heard reports of people shuffling about and getting up and swapping seats because they think they're outside. I think it's a bit of fun. And we had a sort of solo trumpet player blaring out in the park, obviously, so the theatre can't do anything about that. But it's still a perfect evening for this show, but your evening might be ruined because of the weather, Well,
I think that you pays your money, you takes your choice. I personally think how brilliant here we are in our wonderful city of London with all these gorgeous parks, and at the moment we've got Regent's Park Open Air Theatre doing its thing, and over in Hyde Park in Kensington Gardens we've got Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. How brilliant is that?
With a 360 projection dome.
Absolutely. So I think we're rather blessed. I mean, I would not be negative about the space, because I think I think we're really lucky to have it, and it works extremely well, even with renegade trumpeters outside the space of the theatre doing all sorts of things.
Into the Woods, which played here 2 years ago, is now off to playing Broadway this summer, which is very exciting.
Is it in the park on Broadway?
Yes, it's in Central Park, in their theatre. So
in their one park. Yes. We shouldn't say that really, but
Mike, thank you very much for joining me for Ragtime at the Open Air Theatre at Regent's Park.
Thank you very much. I hope if you do go and see it, first of all, I hope it stays dry. And secondly, I hope that the trumpeter who entertained us outside has been removed gently.
He might be part of the piece, we don't know.
Actually, seriously, before we go, there is a really good soundscape, and the soundscape of the piece, the sound effects, all those sorts of things, and the sort of, because they're coming at you all around the theatre, are really good.
For those Jonathan Cohen people around there who are afraid of gunshots, There is a very large gunshot in the show, and I won't reveal how or why, but just be aware for that, and strobe lighting is used also. But Mike, thank you very much. It's been lovely.
Great pleasure. Thank you.
Bye.